I apologize for coming in late, but I was interested to hear something from Mark Chaney. Chancey. Sorry, Chancey.
Okay.
I think there's a typo on the sheet.
It's not the first time.
Well, I just wanted to ask you, you certainly make a number of good points about the privileging of Christianity over other traditions in the amount and depth of coverage. Are you concerned about violation of the Establishment Clause, which states that the government is not to privilege one religion over another, or that very clear warning? Does that make you concerned about just the practice of bringing in religious traditions to teach in the public schools?
I'm very concerned about potential violation of the Establishment Clause. It's not teaching about religion that's problematic. It's the way that these lessons teach about religion. So, I mean, it's just, if I know everyone has looked at the lessons. There are more lessons devoted to Christianity than to any other tradition. There are more lessons about Jesus. I mean, there are barely any references to the major figures of other religious traditions. There are more lessons about the Bible. There are no lessons about other sacred texts. So purely by the numbers, K through 5, these resources as a whole very clearly, explicitly privilege Christianity. They give more attention to Christianity than to any other tradition. The revisions helped out a little bit. I'm grateful for those revisions, for those that were made, but they in no way correct the structural imbalance and the lessons as a whole.
I also noted that you found some errors, and do you think that perhaps one of the problems or issues with this is that if the public schools are teaching religious doctrine or discussing those fine points, that it's really beyond their scope of what they should be teaching at this level?
So I think there are several things going on there. One, some of the lessons, especially those that talk about Bible stories, tell those stories in a very, very literalistic fashion. And I think very young children are going to hear those claims and take them at face value. I mean, I think we all instinctively know that when a teacher teaches a 5-year-old the creation story from Genesis, that 5-year-old child is not going to say to themselves, I am so thankful that we are learning this story for the sake of cultural literacy, but I know that my teacher in school are not promoting these religious claims. Right? We all know 5-year-olds. We've had 5-year-olds. We've worked with 5-year-olds. We've taught with 5-year-olds. Everybody in this room knows that when a 5-year-old child hears a respected authority figure, their public school teacher, teach them God made the world in 6 days and rested on the 7th, that child is going to conclude what my school teaches is that there's a creator God who made the world in 6 days. It's inevitable. It's where the child is developmentally. So that's a problem. And another problem is that a lot of the treatment of religion just isn't done well. There's so many errors. There are errors in the first version, and there are still errors in the revision. The first version, the lesson on Christianity, Paul and Constantine, Road to Damascus and Constantine lesson, had Christians meeting in secret in the catacombs because they're afraid of the Romans. Constantine founded the first church in Rome. Constantine made Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire. The Council of Nicaea determined what was in the New Testament. This is the Da Vinci Code. This is not history. This is not history. And many of those problems remain. Still, that lesson on Paul and Constantine. The writers appear to not even know that Paul was Jewish. They think that Paul was persecuting Christians, the pre-Christian Paul was persecuting Christians because he was trying to impose Roman religion and culture. They know nothing about the story of Paul. The lesson on Psalm 23, the 23rd Psalm, is so beautiful. It's such poetry. I once supervised a committee of scholars preparing a public school lesson on the 23rd Psalm. It's beautiful to study as poetry. This lesson argues that the 23rd Psalm is an example of free verse poetry, which does not play by the rules of normal English poetry. Because normal English poetry rhymes. Normal English poetry has meter. And the 23rd Psalm doesn't have rhyme or meter. Well, the reason it doesn't have rhyme or meter is because it was written in Hebrew 2,500 to 3,000 years ago. It's not free verse poetry. It's a different type of poetry. That lesson talks about capitalization, punctuation, line divisions, stanzification, as if King David himself decided how the King James Bible was going to present that psalm in English. It never mentions the actual poetic features of that psalm, which is the parallel concepts throughout. It is deeply flawed. So my great frustration as somebody who loves to teach about religion and who thinks that public schools should teach about religion, it's not only does this privilege religion, not only is it taught in such a way that's going to promote some religions over others, but in many cases, it even just gets the basic facts wrong.
I just have one last question, and this isn't asking in the area of your expertise, but would you suggest that these kinds of issues are not developmentally appropriate for students, I would say, below the high school level?
I completely agree with that. In fact, I consulted with two of my colleagues in the psychology department who do developmental psychology and child psychology. And they both agreed that children are not developmentally able of making the sorts of distinctions that these lessons assume of them at age 5 or age 6, not to think that the teacher is presenting religious claims. I would also note with the question of alignment with TEKS that's come up, as you all know better than I do, right, the TEKS reserve both religion and American history and also the world religions primarily for junior high and high school, right? That's where it comes up, world history, world geography, U.S. history. And so I was puzzled why we're starting this level of detail at this young of age when the board has clearly decided that those issues will be addressed later, more appropriately in social studies contexts with older students who are able to make these distinctions more easily.
Thank you.
This is for Mark, too. I just wanted to say thank you for spending as much time as you did on this, and I would hope that if these materials do pass, that TEA would contact you to get your input, because I think it's very good and very important. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Mark, just off the top of your head, was the free verse poetry, what grade level?
Off the top of my head, the free
Okay.
verse grade level, is that 5th grade?
Because I was kind of thrown off with that too, with the, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, thank you to those
Thank you.